is up, fanboys and fangirls? Welcome back to our first TV talk, official TV talk of 2023.
One that's actually like separate.
Right. Last week we had kind of The Last of Us episode 1, the pilot. We talked about it on our main episode of the podcast. So now going forward here, at least up into the finale, we're going to break these off into little segments we'll do before our live stream. So we will be talking about... Oh, it does look like fast food night, Easton. You're right. We got all sorts of drinks up here.
You guys got the flamin' dew.
We do have the flaming dew.
Yeah, we're saving this for the show here in a few minutes. But before we get into that, yeah, let's talk about The Last of Us episode 2, Infected. What were your guys' impressions?
It's good, man. It's good. Really good. I don't even know what to go beyond that. It's just like every second of the show I'm just like remembering how much I love the game, but the show is like almost on par with it, and maybe in some places better. In one moment that happens.
At least in one moment, yeah.
But yeah, it's so good. It's so good.
Tyler?
I've just been thoroughly impressed with the changes they've made to make it work better for TV. Because with something that's so loved and something that I've played so recently, I've just been impressed with the changes they've made and how well they work. And I'm with Luke. It's incredibly good. I really have almost zero complaints. I think it's a phenomenal show. And I know there's a lot of talk about HBO having their next hit. I think it's 150% their next hit. It's great. Almost 200.
That's like a guarantee right there.
What's above a guarantee? Man, that's
I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, as you know, I'll go back to this week after week, so I apologize for being a broken record. But as like the one guy here who has not played the game, what I loved about this episode was that it gave me a proper sense of the stakes. You know, what the infected are. Gave me a clear like line of sight on like here's why we need to be worried about them, and here's like how we either avoid them or what we have to do to combat them. And that may obviously change and evolve, but I think for this episode, man, the whole museum scene is fantastic.
No, they did a really good of emulating the stress that scene gives you.
So that's a
Yes.
a mission in the game then.
Pretty much so far, everything is almost exactly like the game.
Oh, wow.
It's not like one for one.
No.
Yeah.
But it's
like
close.
you go through the flooded hotel, and then you go through museum, and you run into clickers.
You also do the flooded hotel dialogue with Ellie.
Man,
Yeah,
that
with
flooded-
like the bell.
Yeah.
That's straight out of the game.
That's from the
That's
game.
so good, man. Again, just proving my point that I made last week of like the foundation of this series is so solid already.
Yep.
You know what it's building on as a show. I think that elevates it because it has such a strong starting point.
Yep.
But yeah, I loved that little. It was almost like a little bit of joy we get to see in Ellie this episode here, and then at the very end, there's like, oh, that view. But even though the end is also this weird, or I guess that was what, like halfway through the episode.
It was right before the last little bit.
The last little bit.
It was like a little breath before
It
the
was.
plunge.
It was.
Yeah.
Because we do have, which I'm so glad they did this. I think a lot of shows are afraid to, you know, kill off characters, but it sets the tone and the seriousness in a way that, you know, we see a little bit in the first episode.
And
obviously this is harsh. It's a harsh world, but at the same time, they're not going to sugarcoat it. It doesn't feel like.
And this is kind of what I was talking about before, that they did Tess's death so much better in the show. I know you haven't played the game, so I'll just unfortunately spoil it for you. In the game, the military shows up and shoot Tess.
Oh, yeah. So it's So it's
And
that
you don't
it's
even see
that-
it. It's off screen, and then
Yeah, it's, like,
eventually
in the
you're up above
background.
and you're sneaking out, and
Yeah.
you just see your body laying there.
Mm.
In the show, that freaking sucked. Like, and they kind of do the cliche thing with the lighter,
Yeah.
which is fine.
When
But-
a show is this well written,
But
it is
like
okay to
to
get,
Yeah.
they can get away with some cliche things.
yeah, but like to show how brutal the world is, and what a threat like clickers and just the normal, oh shoot, I can't remember what they're called. Cordyceps are.
Mm-hmm.
How gross they are. No, not you too, Luke. Sorry, it's better than the game. You don't even see it in the game.
I wonder, is there a, thus far, the human enemy, I don't remember what they're called, with the kind of the government,
Fedra.
do they end up being a bigger bad in the game, or are they just kind of there to make situations uncomfortable? Oh, are they a reason for the Fireflies to exist, or do they actually serve as antagonists or protagonists?
I think they're just really there, at least from the first game at the beginning. Once they kind of get further away, it becomes less of a thing.
I mean, it makes sense. Logically, it makes sense that there would be some sort of
You
attempted organization.
as you move away from the QZ, you just run into other people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
They become less and less of a factor.
Yeah.
But they give you somebody fun to go after early.
Yeah.
To,
That's fair.
To shoot.
I was
Okay,
gonna say,
this
yeah.
is why it's better. Fedra is not a threat in the slightest. They're just there. They show up for no reason. Like, in the show, they weren't being chased by Fedra. They hadn't run into Fedra. So if they would have just shown up in the game, it would have been like, okay, what is this? And it's keep establishing that the cordyceps and the fungus are the enemy in this.
Right.
It's the world that is killing people. It would have made no sense if all of a sudden humans show up and there's like, oh,
We're going to go shoot these people now.
where's the girls? Like, what? They didn't even
Yeah,
know
they
about
were-
her yet.
Right. I think
Um,
without hammering that too much, I do like, I want to bring up the like opens, the
Ooh, the Jakarta?
Jakarta
Yes,
stuff.
the cold
Um,
opens.
Yeah, that I don't know what else to call them, but I really like what they've done with those.
Mhm.
They just add JT and I, Dead Fist in the chat, talked about this a little bit. I really just like that they add context to the world. And it's really kind of a cool visual representation of finding those like documents on the ground throughout the world, because that's kind of where some of this
Mm.
kind of comes into play. I just think it's really fun, and I think they're incredibly well done. Also, HBO had to get their boobies in there somewhere, so you knew
They
it was
always-
coming.
they always
can't
gotta
go
do
without it.
minor nudity or brief nudity, I think
Yeah.
is what it was.
Like I can
listed
appreciate
as.
the realism, but at the same time, it's like, why?
Yeah.
Just put a turbo rope.
Yeah.
Come on.
They can't help themselves.
We're only interested in the ankle and the mouth.
Dude, I will say, like, the fungus, cordyceps,
Like whatever the tongue is,
whatever those things are
Freaking-
creepy.
freaking gross.
Ugh.
the tendrils.
Yeah. Yeah. And shout out real quick to the actress who
Play
kind
the
of-
doctor.
yeah, leads that scene and drags us through this like emotional terror that she's going through. Like the moment she says like bombs.
Just drop a bomb. Yeah. Oh.
Oh.
Yeah.
Like knew immediately. Like we're freaking dead.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
hosed.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I love those little intros. Intros is what I'm going to use from now on.
Fair.
Cold Open makes me feel like I'm talking about a comedy sitcom. Yeah,
It's SNL.
I'm excited. Like, as much as I look forward to each episode every week, I'm really looking forward to those intros too, because it's a different. It's
So
stuff
far,
that we've not gotten
been
from the
something new.
game. Yeah,
Yeah.
and so it's just really cool.
I'm wondering if the next episode will be the Bill and Frank intro,
Like looks like a flashback.
Yeah.
Almost. Yeah.
or if that'll be actually part of the episode, or if we'll get more like just random stuff in the world.
Well, one of the things that they've kind of let out is next week's episode is like an hour 20.
Ooh, another long one.
Yeah,
They're
so-
adding a lot in next week's episode. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, so
Just-
like the first one was an hour 15. This one was 50. Next one's like an hour 20. The one after that's 50 again. Like they've released some of the run times, and you can definitely tell where the heavy episodes are because they're like, yeah, this one's gonna be big.
Yeah.
And I think this next one will be big.
Mhm.
But
Yep. I also just want to talk about how much they nailed. It sucks to be in a room full of clickers and you have to reload your gun and like you haven't upgraded any of your stuff yet.
yeah,
And so the reload freaking sucks. And like, I mean, you're not really concerned about being quiet in the game, so like you have to reload.
Right.
Dude, but that freaking attack scene was so awesome.
so it was really fun watching it with Dana, who's also not played the game, and she's not really like she saw me play it, but she's not seen any of like the big interactions with clickers or anything like that. And when the clicker kind of walks by the cabinet and like comes around the corner and you get a good look at it for the first time, Dana was like, she was sitting next to me on the couch, and as that scene was going on, she just slowly progressed forward. And then, like, as it was happening, she just, like, slowly pulled the blanket up to her mouth. And she was just leaning forward, looking over the top of the blanket. And I was like, I love that this show creates that sense of, it's like how you feel when you're playing the game. And the other thing that it does, and it just cracked me up so much, and Dana might kill me if she listens to this, I don't know. But, like, that scene was almost over. Like, we were getting towards the end of it, and she's like, hey, after this, can we pause it? Because I'm going to need to pee. And I was like, did you have the hide and seek effect? Because you know, like when you play hide and seek, you hide the first time. And I was like, see, if something like that can create that feeling for you, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Like that, it's just so it speaks to how well this show has been made.
Yep.
It's so
amazing
impressive.
prosthetics on the clickers.
Yeah.
Oh, it was so cool in the after show seeing how they made them too.
Yeah.
I definitely recommend watching those, like
The
The after
shows.
show, yeah.
I had a buddy talk about how he like, oh, I haven't watched these because I felt like when Benioff and Weiss were doing it with Game of Thrones, it just made me mad. Like, this is not that. The like Druckmann and Mason are fantastic at talking about the story, and then you get some interviews with the actors and actresses as well. Specifically this time with Tess.
She was like in her full makeup.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, come do this thing real quick. That cracked me up.
So good. But you do get to see a lot of that little behind the scenes stuff, which I find fascinating.
They also expand on like why they make some of the changes that they make.
Yeah.
Yeah, with like the spores.
I was gonna say like going with the spores thing. And
I didn't even think about that. That's like such a video game mechanic.
yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, that's kind of true.
Well, that and like the tendril stuff and the stepping on the fungus and the world wood web stuff.
Yeah.
Like just kind of explaining all of that in a little more detail. Like that's a good change that fits. Like, and it's cool because you can see that Neil, working with Craig, because this was Neil's directorial debut in
he
television.
directed this episode.
But you can tell that he's learned a little bit more about fleshing out the world when you come over to a different medium.
Yeah.
And you can see it in that Neil's been willing to make changes to fit kind of what this medium needs. And I've really enjoyed watching kind of the growth of Neil just in these 2 episodes in those little post shows. You kind of see he's pretty humble.
It's easy, and we see it a lot with, creators to get super attached to whatever it is, you're working on. It's your thing, and you you have this weird like iron grasp because you love it so much, and there is some honor, or like I get that. At the same time, if you are a certain kind of creator, if you're a video game maker and you're transitioning your story to a novel or to TV or to a movie, like you gotta understand there's gotta be give and take because those mediums are so different.
Yep.
So, agreed.
Yep.
Very cool. Well, okay. Looking forward to next week. And maybe one of these times we'll have something real negative to say, but 2 for 2 so far. Been fun.